Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to the third Digital Classicist London seminar for summer 2017. We're extremely happy to have one of the organizers speaking this week, Valeria Vitale, who is a research fellow in digital classics and digital geography here at the Institute for Classical Studies and works on the Pelagios Commons project. And she'll be talking to us about Recogito 2, whose official subtitle, I can't see in front of me, but is Link to Data Without the Pointy Brackets. And so Valeria will tell us all about that.
Thank you, Gabby. So I will briefly say just an introduction about the Pelagios Commons project. That is a large international project that is about using linked open data to connect information about ancient places and about the ancient world in general, according to the geographical references that they share. And Pelagios Commons, in particular, which is the last incarnation of the Pelagios project, has a strong focus on community. And one of the things we were really keen on was having, more people contributing data and creating semantic annotation about ancient places and ancient people and ancient events. So we developed a tool. I say we because it sounds very cool, but it wasn't me. It was Rainer Simon in Austria. We developed a tool that is called Recogito, which is a free online annotation tool and publishing platform that allows people to create semantic annotations without worrying too much, and this is the sense of the funny title, about the formal language and the formal structure of linked open data. And another strong point of Recogito 2 that we will see together is that it allows collaborative and simultaneous annotation of the same document if that what suits a particular project. So what I will do now is giving you a live demo of Recogito and all the various functions and all the tools, and then I will discuss some of the potential applications of Recogito, but hopefully I will hear more examples from the audience or possibly from the other people that are listening to this seminar. So let's start with. Okay, this is the Pelagios Commons website, just quickly, where you can find a link to Recogito here from Link Data, or you can just go directly to the Recogito URL, which is recogito.pelagios.org, and you just create an account. You don't need, it doesn't need to be approved or anything. You can just straight away to annotate your documents. So let's see what we find inside Recogito. Just quickly, this is, we are very proud to show a little bit of statistics. This is the number of annotations that have been produced in Recogito. This is not bad. And we have, this is the number of users, and this is the number of entries only in the last 24 hours, which is, again, not a bad number. So let's log into Recogito. I didn't.
Alt-tab.
And share.
Alt-tab.
Present to everyone?
It's already presented.
Okay. And okay, let's log into Recogito. And this is the interface that you find. So Recogito is basically your working space where you can upload and annotate your documents. Mostly, you can work on two kinds of documents, text and images, but we'll also see quickly that you can do some annotation, some words, some visualization on spreadsheets as well. So we will start looking at some examples with text, then we'll move into maps or other kind of images. So how do you add a new document in Recogito? I mean, Recogito is meant to as a tool where you can upload your own documents, what you choose, what, the kind of data you're interested in. So it's quite straightforward. You click on New Document, and you have this interface that asks you one mandatory field is the title, and we are going. I prepared it already. We are going with the. Let's see. Look. The author, I guess it's Homer, but I would like to add the translation that I used. It's the one that is on Wikisource, so it is translated by Butler. This is not mandatory, but I think it is best practice, especially if you are sharing information, especially if you are collaborating with other users, that your metadata are as rich as possible. And there are more fields if you like. The language we're using is English, but for the moment, let's just go on. Now, how do we drag the file if we are in full screen? Can we do that?
Just click on it and choose it yourself.
Okay. And here we have our Odyssey book tool that I have prepared before. So one thing to bear in mind when uploading text in Recogito is that Recogito only accepts one format of text, which is TXT, which is the one of the simplest format of text, so it doesn't take much formatting. If you try to upload any other format of text, it just won't work. So TXT is our only choice, which means that sometimes we have to create the text document. What I've done in this case, for example, was going into Wikisource, as I said, I just copied the text and saved it as TXT. All main Word editors allow you to export or save in TXT. Word, OpenOffice, Google Documents, all of them. So that won't be a problem. Okay, next. Let's wait for it to process our new document. Done. And this is the list of all the documents that you have uploaded in your own account. So the last one for us will be our Odyssey book, the second by Homer. If we double click on it, we are in our annotation space for text. So let's have a look at the options and the tools that we have for it. So you can see, maybe not so clearly, that some of the words have been highlighted in gray. These words are the words that Recogito, with this algorithm of name entity recognitions, has spotted as possible names of places or names of people. And of course, it didn't pick them all, and it's not always correct in its guessing, but we'll see that it is not a bad starting point if we want to annotate the text. And I wanted to show you how to upload a document, but actually, surprisingly for me, the Odyssey book, the second, doesn't have a lot of geographical information. So we will actually look at Livy in the English translation from the Foundation of the City. So what happens if we click on one of the words that have been highlighted in gray? So for example, okay, Rome is really too easy. Let's try Cortona. This is the response of Recogito. It's trying to talk with us. And the guess of Recogito is that that word is a place, which in this case, it's a good guess. And it has also tried to match it automatically against the digital gazetteers that are integrated with Recogito, which are Pelagios, this is the gazetteer of the ancient world, Geonames, that is a modern gazetteer of places, and the digital atlas of the Roman Empire. It looks kind of okay, but okay, for this one, let's just confirm and say okay. And we have created an annotation. We have confirmed, we have geo-resolved actually an annotation. We have associated specific geo-coordinates relying on the gazetteers that are connected to Recogito with a piece of the text. And you can see that the text has changed color. The highlight has changed color. It's not gray anymore, it is green. It means that the place has actually been geo-resolved. The gray ones are connected to coordinates that have been guessed by Recogito. Sometimes the guess is good, sometimes it's terribly, terribly wrong, like Ithaca in the United States and things like that. So let's find another one. I don't want to do Rome because, okay, Carthage, this could be. Okay, let's say that we are not sure that the match that Recogito is suggesting us is the one that we want. So we can click on change and see what are the other options that Recogito is, proposing us. I think that the one that is right for us is this one, Carthago, and I will go with Pelagios just because it's the gazetteer that I'm more familiar with. So I would say okay, and again you see that the color has changed. We have an actually geo-resolved place. But what happens when we want to tag, we want to annotate a word that Recogito has not recognized already? It has missed it. So let's help me finding the name of a place that skipped, the Recogito has skipped.
Just above Italy, actually skip past one.
Just above Italy?
No,
okay.
Scroll up one. It's the fertile plain or something or other.
I can't see. Further up.
The Etruria.
Okay. An Etruria that is not.
See Italy, up.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you. So what you do is actually just highlighting the text like in any word processor, and when you release, you have the same interface that you've seen before. And now Recogito has no idea what this word is, so it's asking us, what is it? Is it a place, a person, or an event? Which are the three kinds of annotations that we are allowed to make in Recogito. In this case, I have no idea why I didn't pick this Etruria, but did pick the others. We say that it's a place, and the suggestion for it is actually good. We can double check. Yes, I think that Etruria Tuscia is the one that we're interested in, and we click OK. All right, we will find examples of repeated names afterwards. But places are not the only kind of annotations that we can perform. And we'll see more about annotating places when we will be looking at images as well. We can also annotate people or events. So this should be fairly rich in names. Okay, we have Hannibal here. Okay, as you can see, the interface to create annotations about people it's simpler than the one to annotate places, because for places we can geo-resolve them against gazetteers, which are a list of authorities. So we can say, okay, Etruria that is in this text is exactly the same Etruria that has a URI in Pelagios. Or in another gazetteer. But there is no such a thing, neither for people nor for events. So what we can do is just say that Hannibal is a person, is a person. And we can, if we want, add comments or tags. For example, when we are working on an historical text, it might be useful to say if a character is human or divine. If we are talking about, a war, we might say if it is, I don't know, Greek or Roman or whatever. The the kind of tags that we choose, it's entirely up to our research questions. It's entirely up to what is useful for us. But what is, in this case, yeah, let's say that, well, that animal is male, enter, and that is human. Enter. We have created these two tags. What is interesting about tags, and we'll see that later when we do the download options, is that the information about tags can be downloaded. So our tagging information about animal or about an event is not just limited to the display in Recogito. We can actually download that information, and we'll see an example of that, and do some visualization using those tags. For example, asking, okay, show me something about all the male characters or all the human characters, and so on. So let's say, okay, can we find someone that has not been God is not bad.
Flaminius, just at the top of your screen.
Okay. Okay, let's see if Flaminius occurs again. Okay, this is another feature of Recogito. When a word occurs more than one time, the first time that you create an annotation about it, Recogito tries to help and says, okay, this same word, identical, occurs other 13 times. Do you want to reapply exactly the same annotations to all of them? And again, it depends. I mean, sometimes you just say, yes, please do this for me. Especially, I would say, in the case of people, because, I mean, I think it's, well, although, yeah, well, with Roman names, you never know. So this is another example of you have to be careful, because sometimes it actually helps you and spares some time, but it can also be a little bit tricky, because there are people with the same name, there are people, you know, that belong to the same family. And for places, it's the same, because there are maybe settlements and islands with the same name, or settlemental rivers with the same name, and they have different IDs in the gazetteers, of course, because they are different geographical entities. So when we do resolve them and when we do create annotations, we should, you know, bear in mind that we are talking about different entities. So in some cases, it is actually very useful. In some others, maybe we want to double check them one by one. In this case, let's just say yes. And let's just, okay, oh, I like this one. This definitely looks like an event. Wait. Okay, this is another good example that we can come back later about complex annotation. So let's just say that this is an event, as Recogito is guessing. Okay. The color code that you have seen so far only involved geographical annotation. You have seen geographical annotations changing color from gray to green when they were georesolved, which is, you know, quite useful if you're working on geographical information, because it tells you what is the reliable geographical information and what is the information that has only been guessed by Recogito. But maybe we want to see at a glance what are the things about places, what are the things about people, what are the things about events. And in that case, we change color coding and we go into by entity type, and we have green for places and blue for people and pink for events. Okay, I think we have covered the very basics of text annotation, and I would still okay. Can I just do that? Yes. Lately, I've been using Recogito for teaching. I've been using Recogito in classroom environments. And this has been really, really useful, because it has brought up a lot of questions about the annotations that were actually questions about the text. So I thought that it was very interesting kind of approach, because it's the act of annotating the text itself that brings you to think about the text in a more rigorous way, maybe in a more creative and a more interesting way. So these are, some of the edge cases that came up from the students or from our own playing around with the annotations. And I think that there might be, way more. So, for example, you have seen the basics of the annotations, but what do you do in Recogito or in any other annotation environment when you have places that are also people? Like, for example, the incarnation of places that you find in ancient literature, like the incarnation of the planet Earth, or the reverse commander that was both a river, so a geographical feature, and a god, so a person, or the other way around. I mean, what do you do when you have people that are also places, like the personifications, or from a more technical point of view, what do you do when you have a name of a place that contains the name of a person, like the island of Venus or the island of Calypsos? Well, in that case, we'll see it's relatively straightforward. We do, let's say, Chinese box annotation. We'll see that in Recogito. Or what do we do when we have people that are not really people? They're gods, they are imaginary, maybe they never existed. I mean, there are a lot of questions, there are a lot of question marks that are actually very stimulating for the process of analyzing the text. And I think that actually one of the best, the most important value of Recogito is really bringing up the discussion about the nature of the text and the nature of the relationship between the elements of the text. One of my favorite examples is, not only places that are imaginary, like, let's say, the place of the afterlife, but places that are both real and imaginary. So, for example, the Mount Olympus, which is an existing and fairly legit geographical feature, but it's also an imaginary place in the sense that it is, the house of the gods. This illustration, we have a fairly famous Italian episode that is A Travel to the Moon. I mean, the moon is there. It's a geographical feature, if you want, but the travel to the moon and what happened, the description of the moon is, of course, completely imaginary. So let's go back to our Recogito environment and see how we can tackle some of these issues. So, for example, okay, we have this already. I think that Recogito is smarter than I thought. This annotation that was that Servilius entered upon his consulship is both marked as an event, but the name of Servilius is also marked as a person. But the same thing can be marked twice. And okay, I'll do this. I will then delete it. It's just for the purpose of this demonstration. Mars is theoretically both a place and a person. In this case, it's a person because it is appropriate. They're talking about the god. But let's say that we also want to tag it as a place. We just add another annotation, and of course there is nothing in Pleiades to match against Mars. But you can get my example. And same thing, for example, with the if we go to, I think I had the Iliad somewhere. No.
Is it shared with you?
No, I think I uploaded it. Nope. Okay, I was looking for a patronymic, so you have, let's say, Achilles, son of Peleus. I apologize, I don't know the name of the Greek characters in English, so they will be a little bit weird mix of Italian.
You've got the daughter of Atlas.
Where?
Yeah, right by your head.
I hate when that happens. So you see exactly what we were talking about. We have the daughter of Atlas, which is a person, but you see that this part is darker because there is actually another annotation that is just Atlas alone. And this is a very traditional XML encoding kind of thinking, like there are annotations that can be made within other annotations. So another thing is that, as we were saying at the beginning, this is a collaborative environment. So not only I can create more than one annotation for an entity, so I can say that Mars is both a planet and a person, but another user can comment and can add annotations on my own. And we will see that in the sharing mode. Another question that came up when we were working with the students was, what about, for example, the name of peoples that are actually also geographical information? How do you tag them? And yeah, and I found one that was really good. It was the sons of Atrid. So it was, people, it was geographical, and it also had a person. So it was really, really a good one. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to find it again. So again, it is very much about what you want, why you are creating your annotations, and what are you going to do with that. But Recogito is simple enough and flexible enough to adjust a few of these edge cases that make the annotation actually, to me, quite interesting. Okay, I will move to images, because Recogito is nothing if we don't have fun with maps. And then I will show you how to share the documents and the various level of you can involve other users, and then we will see the export options in the end. We will finish with a teaser trailer of Peripleo, which is our visualization API, but one thing at a time. Okay. So for uploading images, it works pretty much like for uploading text. So we can skip that, and this is your working space about images. You see that you always have your download options here, and you have the available tools here. So the first thing that we can do is actually zooming in, and what we have, it's a late 18th century map of old places. So we can zoom in either with our mouse or with this tool here. And because orientation in maps is sometimes a little bit funny and it can get difficult to read, you can also rotate the map just pressing Shift and Alt until you get to the orientation that is more comfortable to you. And so there are two options that you have in annotating maps, which are annotating just one single point or annotating a portion of the map. And again, it depends from what you're interested in when you work with the map, because sometimes you just want to record, the exact location. You are really interested in that in that precise point, or sometimes you're more interested in maybe how a place it is called on a map, how it is recorded on the map. So you prefer to select the portion of the map that has the name. So for example, I will show you both. If we want to encode the really precise location of the city of Tarentum, and it is definitely there. We say that this is a place, and that there is. And we resolve it. And you see there is this little dot that is our annotation. But we can also select our box tool and, for example, focus on Ancona. We draw a line and we pull it up, and when we click, again, we have our usual interface that we can say again that is a place. In this case, we transcribe the name of the place, that is Ancona. And it may be worth saying that, especially working with old maps, when it says transcribe, it actually means it. So it is important to write the name exactly as you see it, even if it has errors, even if it's not the spelling that is more common now. It is important to record the name as it appears on the map. And okay, let's see that the guess in this case is really wild. This is the one that we're looking for. Okay. And you see that the area is now gray. It has received an annotation. But, okay, these are two of the main things that you can do with places, but I will go quickly back to text because I want to show you something that I skipped. After you've done all your annotation on the text, you might want to look at all the places that have been mentioned in this text on a map. And why would you want to do that? Well, because it gives you a quite useful, at a glance idea of what are the places that are involved. And maybe if you're doing a text analysis that is somehow focused on spatial relationships or on geographical information, on whatever it is your research angle that somehow involves space or geography or places or provenance, this is a simple but in a way definitely useful visualization. And you see that the size of the dots changes, and it is bigger for places that have received more information. So for example, if we click on Rome, I would say, yes, it has 60 annotations. And you can actually browse them one by one with a tiny snippet of the context. So you can also see in what context the word Rome was included. And if you want, a little bit more context, you really need to read the text in its entirety. You can jump back to text, and you are brought back to the exact same point where the annotation comes from. And we will see another application of this later, but now let's go back to our maps. Because one thing that I wanted to tell you about the maps is that after you have done your annotations, you might want to look at the annotations on the map in a map view. That sounds silly, but it's not. Because, yeah, well, sometimes it is redundant, but sometimes you might be working with maps, with ancient maps. They're not so immediately recognizable as such. And actually having something that is a little bit more familiar visualization. Okay, let me find. Okay, I guess it's in my documents. There it is. So, for example, look at this map. I dare you, what is this? This is a map of the Mediterranean. And this is Sicily, and this is Cyprus. And it's great, I love this map. It's very interesting, and some of the places here have been geo-resolved. But maybe if you're presenting, a work around this map to a non-expert audience, a visualization that is more like this might be preferable. And the great thing about this visualization is that basically it does with images the same thing that we have seen before with text. So if we click on if we zoom in and click on the annotations, we see the piece that we have selected and annotated, which I think it's really good, especially if you're working on a transcription, if you're working on a variant of the name of a place. And when I saw this, my first thought was like, oh yeah, it would be great if we could compare different documents that talk about different manuscripts that talk about the same place and see how they were written. And someone else had that idea, luckily, so I can show it to you. And these are the annotations of an atlas, the Egerton Atlas, that is in the British Library, that has been annotated by one of our collaborators. And this is how it looks like in the map view. And if you click on, okay, this one, you see two different ways of calling a place that has been resolved, with the same place. And then I thought, what if we could do this with text as well? And we tried. Maybe it's not the more, straightforward thing, but it may be useful, for example, to compare how different authors have talked about the same event or the same place, roughly around the same period, or to compare to translations. I don't know. My experiment was to create a bundle, which is, by the way, very easy. When you upload your document in Recogito, you just dump more files all together, and Recogito will create one single entity, and all the annotations will be calculated as a whole. My experiment was with Livy and Pelagios. I called it the Animal Bundle. And yeah, if you look at the map view, you have, annotations that comes from both the text, and you can compare them. Sadly, you have to actually go to the text to see from which one it comes, but it is a possibility. Well, it was just a wild experiment. I really wanted to know if that was possible. But okay, let's go to more straightforward things, which are how to share the documents, how to collaborate using Recogito. So each document you can upload regardless its copyright status, because everything in Recogito, by default, it's private. Only you can see what you're working on. Then you have, let's say, options, because you might want to invite other colleagues to work with you and to annotate with you the same document. And you can annotate, you can work on the same document simultaneously, and you can see each other's annotation. You can comment on each other's annotation, which I found it's great for work, for classwork. It really works. If you refresh the page quite frequently, you see all the annotations appearing, and it's really engaging for the students. So you just add your, the name of another user. Let me add Rainer to this, okay? And then you choose the privileges, like in a Google Doc. I mean, you can allow people to read, to write, or to be admin of your document. If you choose this, of course, the document and the annotation will be visible to all the people that you have invited and they have collaborated and that have collaborated with you. You might want to make this document completely public. You may just to publish it so that everyone can see your annotation, as we have seen the annotation of the Egerton Atlas in the British Library, because that it has been made public. So to make it public, you have to click this option that is visible to all. However, you see, you can't in this case, because you are only allowed to make it visible to all if in the metadata you can declare that that document is out of copyright, or that you are allowed to make it public. So the only way to have this option active is to go into the metadata and select a license that allows you to do that, of course, if you can do that. And to finish, the download options, which are, in a way, the strong point of Recogito, because you've seen the interface of Recogito. It's really straightforward. It's, it's very simple. It's just, you select and you click and you transcribe and that's it. But what you can do afterwards is downloading that information in completely valid formal language that is can be from a simple CSV, comma-separated value, a spreadsheet. That I don't say that enough. I'm a big fan of spreadsheets because you can do a lot of stuff with them. But also more complex, more structured data like JSON LD or RDF Turtle or RDF XML. And if you have geocoordinates, you can even download that in GeoJSON. And if you're not... this is the kind of data that you download from Recogito after you have created the annotation in quite a simple, straightforward way. So this is the RDF XML, this is the GeoJSON. So this is what we mean without the pointy brackets. So you create completely valid linked open data or other formats that are ready then to be post-processed. You can do other stuff with that, but you have created that very simply, very easily. And I think it is particularly relevant with collaboration, because then you can involve in the same project, in the same annotation effort, people with different level, or with different familiarity with these technologies. And they all can contribute, and in the end, the output will be a valid output anyway that can be post-processed in a GIS software, can be processed in a map software. Okay, one of the examples that I had prepared for you, but I think I've talked slightly too much. When we were talking about using the tags and using the tags also for visualization, this is a visualization of that map of the Mediterranean that I've showed you. Where the uncertain place have a different color from the certain places. And that is done just by dumping in this software that is CartoDB, the CSV, the spreadsheet exported from Recogito with the information about the tags. So you see that the green dot is the uncertain, and there were actually only a few uncertain, and the purple one are the certain places. And I will probably also skip. I have prepared a list of why should you use Recogito, which I think we kind of covered. And I will go to the teaser of Peripleo, if you bear with me. So Peripleo is our search and visualization API. So what it does, it shows you information about various databases that have contributed their data to us, how they are related to the place. So you can search for, what are the things, what are the linked data that are related to that place? What are the things in museums? What are the things in databases? What are the annotations that can be found that are related somehow to that place? And you might have had a go at PeriPlayer already in the past. It has been around for, I think, 1 year or more. But this is the new version that Rainer is working on. And this is a beta version. So unlike Recogito, I don't think it's as stable as Recogito, but let's hope that it bears for the 5 minutes that we need. And it has some new features. So I will just quickly show you, if you have never used before, or if you used it before, what is new in it. And I will use as an example the numismatic database, which is very rich, and it's very well structured, and they are always very, very eager to contribute their data. So we usually use their data as a task because they work really well. So let's look for tetradrachm. And we have more than 22,000 results, and we see, what are the places that are related to our results. But let's look, for example, this is the only filter at the moment that really works, which is the time filter. So selecting a different time, you can see that, at the beginning they were more popular in some places, and then they changed their distribution. And you see again that some places have bigger circles because they are more prominent. There are more findings there, and the prominency of the places also changes through time, because some that used to be big, then they become quite small. And we could for example, select one of the objects that are related to one place, and we have a preview of the image. We have a link to the original database that is here. So we have all the information about the coin that has been found there, and we have a link to all the other things that have been found in the same place, because now we are looking just for the tetradrachm, but there are other things that have been found in this same place, and we can look at them. And in this case, there are other coins, but and so on. And this is just a brief walkthrough of one of our filters, but what we are planning for PeriPlayer future development are adding more filters. So you will be able to search not only by place, but also by item type. So we will have different searches for places, for person, for just information coming from a particular data set, and so on. We will show more the connections between the information. So we will show network diagrams, and we will show if some places are related by co-occurrences, and we will try to differentiate more our results. So, for example, we have seen a lot of coins related to one single place, but why they were related to that place, were they found there, were they minted there, did they attest the existence of that place, and so on. This will all be features that we will add in PeriPlayer soon. So if you want more information about both these tools, Recogito for the annotation and PeriPlayer to search the linked open data that have been contributed so far, you can go to our to the Pelagios Commons webpage, where you should find all the information you were looking for. If you are a developer and you think that Recogito looks great, but doesn't have really what you were looking for, you are free to go to our GitHub page to download the code that is completely open and modify Recogito in the way that suits better your research. And maybe let us know, because we will be very happy about it. Good. Thank you.
very much, Valeria. It was a really useful presentation of Recogito and the surrounding tools. I mean, as you know, I've used Recogito in the past, and it's developed recently, so it's nice to see some of the new features, especially in Pelagios. So that's all very exciting. I'm sure there are comments and questions. I'd like to start off with a question which I suspect doesn't have a complete answer, but you may have some suggestions. So you showed the Recogito tool and the 3 types of entities that you can use Recogito to annotate.
Yes.
Places, people, and events. And obviously, annotating places is what people have mostly used it for in the past. That's what Pelagios is mostly about, and that has worked. So if it will automatically annotate some places for you, you can search for places using various different gazetteers that exist, and you can disambiguate places, by hand if it hasn't automatically done so. For the other 2 types of entity, you can't do that. It occurs to me that for people, there are data sets out there which provide the same kind of information that the gazetteers do for places. So there's the Snapdragon corpus has some 700,000 person records in RDF. The Lexicon of Greek Personal Names, Trismegistos, the Prosopography of the Byzantine World all have person records that are accessible either directly in RDF or in some kind of an API that you could use to query them. Although we saw 2 weeks ago that Snapdragon isn't user-friendly for a human user, but Recogito isn't a human. Recogito, the gazetteers that Recogito queries for place aren't. The data isn't accessible in human form either. They use the API and the RDF to query that. So I was wondering for that 2 parts of the question. Are there any plans that you know of to query some of the existing person data sets? I mean, Snapdragon in particular, but others also possibly using Recogito to enable you to disambiguate. Maybe not to do any automatic disambiguation, but at least to enable you to put a URI in there in the same way you can for places. And the second part of the question is, do you know what sorts of data sets there are out there that you could use to do the same sort of thing with events? So it's 2 parts to that part of the question.
Yeah, well, actually, I can't really answer to any, but what I can say is that this is something that various people have asked for, a way to disambiguate people, and I also think that would be extremely useful. I'm fairly sure that this is not going to be an immediate Recogito development, just because Recogito development at the moment has stopped, and now all the development effort is towards Peripleo. I think that would be really interesting, but there are no plans for that at the moment. What I would see is maybe a collaboration through LinkPast, a joint project that creates an expansion of Recogito or a meta tool that brings Recogito and a disambiguator for people, and they jointly work together. And no, I don't know anything about an event disambiguator. I know that there was that project, the digital project in Warwick. They were trying to map historical events, but I think it was getting out of hands, because it must be really difficult to map events and also what granularity of events. So it would be extremely interesting, but I think also kind of very, very challenging resource to create.
Don't Arachne have URIs for events? Don't they have a gazetteer of events?
I'm not aware of it.
No, maybe I'm not thinking of Arachne then.
They got it for objects.
At the very minimum, we could use something like Wikipedia.
Yeah,
which will have events.
Wikipedia actually also have a few names. I mean, a few people as well. But we, I don't know if it's a technical barrier or
one of the sources of place disambiguation among your editors.
No, I don't think so.
Wikidata is not in there. Okay. Would make sense to you.
Yeah. So geonames usage. Geonames certainly links to Wikipedia.
Yeah, no,
I don't think they connect to Wikipedia.
A lot of these will link to each other, but Recogito itself doesn't recognize Wikidata directly. Okay. But so the answer may be if someone were to get some funding to build a prosopographical resource of whatever kind, they should make sure that funding includes some development cost for working with Recogito to just get the prosopographical part of that plugged in.
I think that would be great, and I think it would be very much welcomed by the community.
Well, it's the circle that interests me. If I tag Servilius in Livy, what have I done beyond telling myself that Servilius occurs in this text? Am I contributing to information about Servilius somewhere else? No, I'm not, because there isn't a somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But if I tag Tarentum in my text, am I creating something? Am I talking to, do the other sources know I've done it? Because in some ways, one way of looking at what you're saying about people is to turn it right around and say, can we use Recogito to build the kind of results we're talking about? It's a sort of circular thing, that here's a text, here's an item, a mode, place. I've done this work on this text. How useful it would be for this place to know about this particular instance. And in some cases, if I was going through with other people, I might come to a person who wasn't in whatever the authority list was and be able to add them. So it's that joined together process that interests me.
So if I get your question, and to simplify it a little bit for the others, is what happens when you create an annotation?
Where to go?
Yeah. Well, it depends. First of all, from the level of, if you decide to share it or not. Yeah. So let's assume that you have made it public, of course, because that's the first thing. The annotation that has been made public is theoretically retrievable within Recogito, but not in Peripleo, because Peripleo also shows curated material. So if you want your annotations to be in Peripleo, you have to submit, let's say, a consistent curated corpus and contact us, Rainer, of course, and say, I have this, bulk of data that are, they are safe, and, they are in the right format and they are correct. And they will go into Peripleo. But the single annotations that we have no control on, and maybe people said, yes, let's make it public, but they really couldn't. And maybe, they are just people messing about because they are, it's a class experiment or whatever. We cannot make it, a direct visualization from Recogito to Peripleo. So there is a barrier, there is, let's say, a vetting thing that cannot happen for each single annotation. So only, project scale, maybe small project, but, corpus scale data go into Peripleo. But the annotations that have been created in Recogito can be found in Recogito by other users, like the BL thing that we have seen. So all the BL annotations are in Recogito, and they're not very easy to find at the moment, but improving the search function in Recogito is kind of, #1 priority.
So the equivalent to what you were talking about is the way that Pelagios have a sidebar when you go to the page for Athens, and among the other things they tell you about Athens are Here are all the places that are annotated as being related to Athens in Pelagios data. And that's only in the curated data that you talked about, that they have access to. So that makes sense. So you do the similar thing with people, and so any one of these many online prosopographies that we know about could be doing something like that. And that's an experiment that we should talk about doing next time we have a prosopography with some funding, or maybe British History Online should be the ones doing it. But yeah, we could.
Yeah, I know that there are projects that have developed just a Recogito plugin with their own small prosopography, and that worked. Right. But maybe for more prosopographies and the disambiguation function that happens for places, that would be more complicated. I'm just guessing. Yeah.
If you have a system of peer review, you're starting to turn into a publisher. Let's say I work on one complex map in the British Museum, in the British Library, and I put it up online in some secure and reliable place, and I submit it to Periplay.
Yeah.
And Periplay says, yes, this is all good stuff, we're going to take it on board. That's publication, isn't it? That's a referable item.
I would say so, as well as I would say that for a play of this entry.
Thank you so much. I was wondering, thinking about geographical mapping versus mapping people. When you showed us that sort of difference between tagging in text and then being able to move to the map, I was wondering if we are thinking about tagging people and kind of honing in on that, would there be a way to contextualize both geographical networks, so where people were born, where they died, mobility, and social networks between people, and also the proximity between, because I think it'd be interesting to see, like, okay, well, this person is mentioned along with this figure in these many texts, this percentage of times. Is there any possibility to do that, or would there be?
I think that what I would do for what you're talking about is using maybe Recogito as a starting point, and then downloading the data with the geographical references and maybe tags that express the relationship, and then try a visualization in another software, either a social network analysis software or some other visualization tool. It's not Recogito's let's say purpose, but I think it would be a useful starting point. So it sounds very interesting. Yes, please.
I'm going to stop the live cast.
Oh yes, thank you.
Before we do this, just because I don't think this is picking up everything that goes on in the room anyway.